But you see, friends, whenever there is a move of God, there's going to be opposition. The devil doesn't oppose a sleeping church. If a church is asleep, you don't disturb it. You just might rock it, you know. Rock it, my baby, on the treetop. He'll just rock the cradle. But the moment a church is alive, preaching the word of God, proclaiming the gospel, Christians that are alive. I had somebody once said to me, Pastor McKivett, the devil don't bother me. I said, no, because you don't bother him. But when you bother him, he's going to bother you. And there was opposition. And we read that as well as a great move of God, opposition came. You see, every time God gains, the devil loses. Every time a soul is saved, the devil loses. There are people that get rich on sin. Pornography gets rich on sin. Drug addicts, drug barons get rich on sin. There are people that make money because people are addicted to alcohol. There are people that make a lot of money on sin. And there were people in Ephesus that was making a lot of money out of superstition. If you get people that are superstitious, they will pay a lot of money. They will go and they'll pay money to have their cards read. They'll pay money to have fancy candles. They'll pay money to have all kinds of charms. There are people that make money out of superstition. And the sad thing is today that there are superstitious Christians that have never been delivered from superstition, and there are television evangelists that are making money on people's superstition, talking about buying miracle water and miracle wheat and prayer and things that go on your head when you're praying, what they call it. There are people that get rich on people's ignorance. But when there is a move of God, when God moves in a nation, drug barons lose money. Those that get rich on pornography go bankrupt. Mosque and Hindu temples close down or become churches. You can just imagine the opposition. Can you just imagine what opposition there would be in England if there was a local mosque in Walthamstow and everybody in that mosque came to Jesus, and people got hold of their Quran, lit a big fire and started burning? Can you just imagine how upset the Muslims would be if that happened? Well, that's what happened in Ephesus. In Ephesus there was a building, a temple to the goddess Diana, and people were making a lot of money on that. If we go over to Acts chapter 19, and it says in verse 21, after these things were ended, Paul, I'll go on to verse 23. At the time there arose no small stir that way, for a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Diana, brought no small gain into the craftsmanship, whom he called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Sir, you know that by the craft we have wealth. Moreover, you see and hear that not alone at Ephesus, but almost throughout Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned men away, much God, saying that there are no gods made by hands. So that not only this our crafts in danger, set to naught, but also the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised, and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia worshipped. So they said, we're going to go bankrupt. We're going to go bankrupt. If people stop worshipping Diana, they're not going to buy images no more. They're not going to buy the bits and pieces that we sell that surround the worship of her. You see, if people stop praying to Mary, there won't be no more rosaries sold. Won't be no more little statues of Mary's made. And so they were getting upset. Because and this is what happened at Ephesus. There had been a mass turn to God. And people had destroyed everything they bought that surrounded the image of Diana and also their other superstitious beliefs. And they burnt the lot because now they come to know the true and living God, and they saw the power of God move in the ministry of Paul, and they knew that Jesus Christ was alive. There was an area in America that I heard of once. Jean Darnell and Elmer Darnell, that taught me at Bible college, they went to this area in America that was so bad in America that even the police did not patrol the area unless they had to. And if they went down there, they went down in several cars, fully armed. They didn't go down by themselves. Not one car, they took several. And Elmer and Jean Darnell decided we're going to take this area for Jesus. And so they prayed about it. And they went into the area. They told the police what they were doing. And they said, we don't want no police cars there. And the police said, well, we just put some unmarked cars there just in case. Okay. So Elmer Darnell and Jean Darnell pulled up in the car. And then Elmer Darnell took out a spotlight and walked down the street in the mist. This area was terrible. It was every gambling casino, every brothels were there. There was drug addiction. There was murder taking place nightly. Women being raped nightly. It was one of the worst places. And he went down and shone a light. As the light shone, Jean Darnell got on a chair and preached for 10 minutes. And the church was handing out tracts with a phone number for anyone to phone that want help. Well, after 10 minutes, they turned the light, they went away. The people kept handing out the leaflets. The number kept phoning, people wanting help. Prostitutes wanted to come off prostitution. Drug addicts wanted to come off drugs. And they had a mass move of God. In fact, so many prostitutes got saved, the brothels closed down. So many people stopped gambling, the casinos closed down. People stopped buying drugs, the drug dens went. And the place became desolate. And then the bulldozers went in and knocked it all down. And right in that area, where the brothels were, where the gambling casinos were, where the drug dens were, they built a massive church to the glory of God. Things had changed. Things had changed. Things had changed. Things happened. Do you know I read about the Welsh revival that was started by Evan Roberts many, many years ago. They had the Welsh revival. And the old miners, and those miners could curse and swear. And many people became saved in the Welsh revival. And when they got saved, they started to return everything they'd stolen. And the managers put signs up outside saying, please don't return any more, we've got too many. They kept sending them back. The miners didn't swear no more. Now those donkeys had been trained to move by swearing. You know, they wanted a donkey to move, they'd go on you blankety blank. Move you. Get a move on you. Well, when the miners couldn't swear no more, and they said, come on, try to be nice to the donkeys didn't understand, they wouldn't move. So they had to get new donkeys down the mine and retrain them, because the miners weren't swearing no more. That is true revival. That is a true move of God. But the Ephesus, obviously the devil is going to get upset whenever there is a genuine move of God, and that's what happened. Demetrius stirred the people. The people cried out, great is Diana, great is Diana. And there was mass confusion in the place. But It didn't come to nothing. It boiled over. For 2 hours they tried the greatest Diana. There was almost a disturbance. The people of Ephesus were being concerned that the problem might come before Rome, and the leaders would be upset because Rome didn't want any problems in any territory. So they'd replace, so the leaders calmed the situation down very, very quickly. And Ephesus. Now, then Paul leaves Ephesus. And he never returns. He never returns again. He does come back and he meets the Ephesus leaders, but not in Ephesus. For we read in Acts 20 verses 16 to 38, it says, for Paul had determined to sail, so get the picture, after a little while after the problem when they shouted greatest Diana, Paul moved on, not because of that, because things had calmed down, but he had to go to other places to preach. And then on his way back, after visiting several places, we now come to verse 16. It says, for Paul had determined to sail to Ephesus because he would not spend the time in Asia. For he hasted, if it were possible, for him to be at Jerusalem the day of Pentecost. So he came to a place called Miletus, and he sent to the Ephesus and called the elders of the church there. Now, so get the picture. Ephesus is about 30 or 40 miles there. He wants to get to Jerusalem, so he doesn't want to go to Ephesus because he would be delayed by a big ministry and the people wouldn't want him to go. So he sends for the elders of the churches of Ephesus, and he comes there. And he makes his final farewell speech, but he makes them in person. I mean, it's not his final message, because he writes the book of, when he's away in Rome, he writes an epistle that we're going to look at called the book of Ephesians. But this was his last time he saw them. So not wanting to be delayed, he goes there, he sends for the elders of the church, where he gives them his final message he's going to make in person, and he says his farewell to them. So in summary, to summarise what we've been teaching on here, I'm not going to go too much into Acts 20, 16 to 38, because that's going to be your homework to look into that. I'm just laying the foundation to show you what kind of place Ephesus was, what led to the building of the church, so that we can understand some of the things, so that when we get in to study in the book of Ephesus, we'll understand it better. Because we know who it was he's writing to. So, in summary, at Ephesus, Paul meets 12 men that did not have the full message, only been taught by John. He reaches all of Asia with the gospel from Ephesus in 2 short years. Some travelling Jews tried to use the power of the name without having the power of the Spirit, and didn't get anywhere. A mighty revival breaks out, followed by opposition. So that's where but there's one final thing I want to look at before we close today in this teaching. And that is 1 Corinthians 15 verse 32. It's on your notes, so you don't have to look at it. You don't have to search your Bible for it. It's on your notes. It's on page 3 of your notes.